And so who is this Babylon? Who is this harlot? Who is this city? Well, there's a lot of different views out there. There's a futurist view that says the harlot of Babylon is a power that is yet to come in the future. And then the preterist will say, no, the harlot is a first century city, the city of Jerusalem, that existed during the generation of the apostles. Good, godly scholars disagree about this, and they hold each view in tension. You're probably most familiar with the futurist view, and so today I want to share with you 8 reasons why the preterist view for some is very compelling here. You don't have to agree with this at all, but I would just like you to consider with an open mind. So here's 8 reasons. Number 1, Babylon is called the Great City. Jerusalem is also called the Great City in Revelation 11:8, which refers to the city where Jesus was crucified. Now, where was Jesus crucified? Jerusalem. Reason number 2. You'll see the use of temple imagery here, which speaks to the city of Jerusalem. The harlot herself in verse 4 is dressed with the colors of the Jewish temple and the colors of the high priest, along with the precious stones that were found on the breastplate of the high priest. You'll also notice the image of an emblem on the forehead, which reminds us of a priestly image. It's the opposite of what the high priest was supposed to wear on his forehead. The high priest's forehead should have said, "Holy to the Lord." But here on her forehead, it says, "Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth and land." So that's temple imagery, priestly imagery. 3, it fits the Old Testament background. The image of harlotry is used frequently in the Old Testament about Jerusalem. We see this in the book of Hosea. And if you read Isaiah 1:21, it literally says this, quote, "How the faithful city has become the harlot," speaking of Jerusalem. Reason number 4, this interpretation fits the language of the covenant. Harlotry in the Bible is a common symbol for covenantal apostasy. The nation of Israel was Yahweh's bride. In Jeremiah chapter 31, God says, "I brought you out of the land of Egypt. I was a husband to you, and I made my covenant with you." So just think about that. How could a non-Israelite nation be referred to as adulterous? Isn't it the covenant that makes the bride, and isn't it the breaking of the covenant that makes them adulterous? Reason number 5, it matches directly the words of Jesus. Do you remember Jesus Christ's own testimony against first century Israel? Jesus refers to the Jewish leaders as worse than harlots, Matthew 21:32. He also calls them an evil and adulterous generation in Matthew 12. Reason number 6, Jerusalem's history of persecution best fits the description given here to Babylon. We learn that Babylon has killed the prophets, the saints, and the martyrs in Revelation 17:6. Which city was responsible for killing all of the Old Testament prophets and the saints and the martyrs? Well, largely, that occurred in the city of Jerusalem. Didn't Jesus say in Matthew 23, "All the blood of the prophets will be charged against this generation"? Reason number 7, this interpretation best fits the setting of Revelation. In chapter 1, you may remember that John says all of these things must take place shortly. And so from a preterist perspective, the time frame references in the book of Revelation are taken very literally. And when Jesus says, "I am coming soon," the preterist says that means very soon. So the time frame references cause the preterists to say, whatever this book is about, it's about something that's happening quickly in the first century, and what was coming in the first century was the judgment upon Jerusalem in AD 70. Jesus says in chapter 1, "I'm coming on the clouds." That's a judgment language against those who pierced him. And who are those who pierced him? Answer, those in Jerusalem. Reason number 8 is this. This sets up a contrast with the New Jerusalem. So that we're in the final section of the book of Revelation. It's the largest definable literary unit in the book of Revelation, and it makes a fitting climax to the whole book of Revelation to set up this contrast between the old Jerusalem that has an illicit relationship with the beast and the New Jerusalem who is the wife of the Lamb. So for those 8 reasons, the preterist says Babylon the harlot is none other than the apostate city of first century Jerusalem, which was about to be destroyed. You don't have to agree with that, but I think it's worth considering. One more witness I want to bring up to the stand is N.T. Wright. N.T. Wright says what's going on here is that Christ reinterprets a standard Jewish belief, the coming judgment which would fall on the nations, in terms of a coming judgment which would fall on impenitent Israel. The great prophets had done exactly the same. Jerusalem, under its present regime, had become Babylon. If you want to read more about this interpretation, I would recommend Ken Gentry's work, The Divorce of Israel.